Hey, welcome everybody who is joining us live on the Zoom version of this, and then who's joining us on the LinkedIn Live version of this. We really appreciate everybody tuning in, and this is going to be a great one. Today, we're talking about, from impossible to inevitable, hiring frontline workers. And I think this is a hot topic. Anybody who's hiring people in restaurants, service technicians, healthcare, construction, manufacturing, I don't know, you name it. If it's a frontline type of job, everybody's struggling with that. So, the goal today is we're going to really begin to unpack that. Tomas has some really unique experience in that. He comes from the car audio background before he became a business coach and executive coach. So he knows what it's like to have to hire these people in a very niche area. So between Tomas and I, we're going to leave you guys with a bunch of things that you can really implement tomorrow. And so I'm just really excited to have this conversation. So Tomas runs Step It Up Academy. And has since, moved on, still obviously involved in running businesses, but is really heavily involved in coaching other entrepreneurs and small and mid-sized businesses and helping them get their time back, right? And to their sanity back and the chaos under control. So I always love talking to coaches like Tomas, because you've always got such great insights for this S&B space. So, just Tomas, tell us a little bit about your background and how you came to build the Step It Up Academy and what this is all about.
Yeah. So like you mentioned, car stereo was my life for 20 plus years. And 2009-ish started my second company in the 12-volt automotive space. And my business partner and I had this opportunity to get heavily involved in the telematics industry. So to dumb it down to layman's terms, we got involved in installing tracking devices and dash cameras in commercial vehicles.
Oh,
and the same skill set we used in the car stereo world transferred over to that very easily. All right, cool. And we see it's now, going from business to consumer, B2C, we're in business to business sales. And there was much more opportunity. People didn't mind to spend a little bit more money because it was now the business spending money, not a person. I was all right, great. There's tons of opportunity here, and started growing this company. And we were both failed business owners ourselves coming into this one. We had both started a company and burned it to the ground within a couple of years because we were great technicians, but knew nothing about business. Right.
Wow. Pretty common story
cool.
with most entrepreneurs, right? They're really good at something. They go become an entrepreneur doing that thing, and then they realize there's a bazillion other things they got to know or be good at, right?
Yeah, for sure. I think Pareto's principle, the 80-20 rule, really comes into play there.
Yeah.
So doing the actual work itself, in my opinion, is, we'll call it 10 to 20% of what's required to make everything else happen. The remaining 80% is the back end stuff. It's, leadership, it's strategy, it's hiring, it's onboarding, it's systems and processes, it's marketing. And it's, none of that's the fun stuff that anyone wants to do. We all rather just be a technician, kind of turning the wrench or doing the trade that we studied out and put time into for several years.
And they're all skill sets that some are trained or some are taught. But I think about this concept a lot. Like, a lot of us have gone and got business degrees, right? Or maybe not. I mean, I got a philosophy degree. Like, I'm really good at thinking about things, but or whatever it is, but very often in our formal educations, they don't teach us about things. And I always talk about hiring. Nobody teaches you about hiring. You learn it through like osmosis, trial by error. Maybe if you're lucky, you had a mentor or a leader in your corporate life that taught you some good things about hiring. Maybe you read some books. I mean, so it's very informal, and that's the same for leadership, right? And it might be true for your accounting and finance. So no one taught you how to work QuickBooks or read a P&L or create a budget, right?
Yeah,
but
true.
Yeah. So how do you get people up to speed and mastering these things?
Yeah. So a lot of that was me, getting to a point where, okay, cool, we've got this business. I see there's opportunity there, but I know that I'm not smart enough to bring it to the next level. I don't have the skill set needed to implement the next pieces of the puzzle. I don't even know what they are. I've got a good idea that some of them have to be around the accounting area. Some of them have to be around the people area. I just don't know how to put the pieces together. So with that, went out there, went on a limb, went to the good old Googles and searched a local business coach. and hired this guy, brought him on and started working with him. And that guy led to another coach / mentor, which led to another one, and just went down this rabbit hole of personal development. Because you have to develop yourself personally if you want to ever develop or evolve the company to beyond, your capabilities. So started doing that and started really learning and understanding the importance of what my time was worth. Right, which is something that we help a lot of our clients with the Step It Up Academy as well.
Well, yeah, you don't want your business to be your whole life and consume everything about it. Like, you might as well go get a job for 40 hours a week. At least you've got weeknights and weekends available to you.
Yes, exactly.
Right? Yeah.
Exactly. So when we figure out, what the time is worth and where we're spending all this time and all these different hats that we're wearing as small business owners, usually it's like, oh man, like this is rough. I can't believe I'm spending all this time and all this. Oh, and by the way, I'm not even paying myself.
Yeah.
So how do we begin to fix it, right? And one of the things that we need to do to begin to fix it is, and I've got a methodology that we leverage, and it's called the G3 method, right? So the first thing is you got to do it. Get something under your belt, get an understanding of what it is. You don't have to be the best at it, but get a good understanding of what it is. Step 2 is get it documented, right? And that doesn't have to be you sitting in front of a computer these days and typing out like crazy. Go leverage ChatGPT to kick out a template. Go use loom.com and record a video. Go take out this funny thing in your phone, your hand called the smartphone, and go record just a video of yourself. Right? That's documenting it. All right. And then step 3 is go delegate it to somebody. And where the delegation piece comes into play, that's the language that you and I speak very well. Is like, okay, who are we going to go hire? What's the process that we're going to use to go hire?
Well, and so I think that's, a couple of things. So you don't know what you don't know. So especially being a newer or an entrepreneur, I mean, even a veteran entrepreneur, right? You don't know what you don't know. So having a coach is extraordinarily valuable. So that's where, find a coach or a coaching program like Step It Up Academy, or any coach like you did, right? You went through many, and that's okay, I think, to evolve, right? To have a coach, and they're going to add value. I'm sure every coach you worked with added value to your life. And then maybe you needed a little bit of different type of coaching as you matured or you mastered certain things, right? So
let me cut you off here a second. I want to equate that to the hiring as well. So when I first started hiring coaches, I was looking for a generalist coach, someone who could help me in a bunch of different areas. As I evolved more and grew more, I started then going out and looking for specialty coaches. So, hey, I need a coach right now for my physical fitness. I need a coach right now for my writing. I need a coach right now for speaking abilities. I need a coach right now who can help me start and publish and launch a podcast. So the same thing happens, in my opinion, in small business. At first, we're like, hey, man, you got a pulse? Cool. I need your help. Like, I don't care what you can.
The chaos is so great. Just kind of help me make sense of it.
Right. So that right there is us as small business owners hiring that generalist. Like, you hire the office manager. This person's going to come in. They can send emails. They can run QuickBooks. They can do basic bookkeeping. They can follow up with clients. They can speak to the attorney. They can send all this crap out and maybe even build a landing page or a funnel for your marketing. Cool. Right. They're good at a lot of different things, but they're not great at any of it. And there comes a point in business where you've got to stop hiring the generalist, and you've got to go out and you have to look for the specialist. You have to look for the person who is a dedicated marketer. You have to go look for the person who's a dedicated copywriter, and so on and so forth.
Well, and so going back to staying on this topic, but going back to something that you mentioned, your G3 method, right? And I really like that. It highlights something that I think is really important. And I think it's a little different than the way most people think about it. Most people say, just go hire the person who's really good at that thing. But you are like, no, go get familiar with that thing first, and then go hire that person. And I really tend to personally subscribe to that quite a bit myself, because the thing I find when you go hire somebody to do that thing that you're not good at, let's just use accounting, for example, right? It falls in lots of different areas, but if I know zero about accounting and I go hire an accountant, how do I know if they're doing a good job? Right. So by me becoming at least familiar with the P&L and writing a budget and accounting, again, I don't have to be the expert. I don't even have to be the expert at using QuickBooks, but I just have to understand it enough to know what good looks like, right?
Yeah.
And that's first step in creating a job description. Well, so the second step is the SOP, right? So the first step is know what good's looking at because I've done it enough to understand it. The second step is create the SOP. And that is the step-by-step. And again, however you want to create that, right? And the beauty of AI these days, if you do it on your phone, you can transcribe that video and then you can dump that into ChatGPT and say, make this more sensible. Put it into like a step-by-step guide as opposed to me blah, blah, blahing on my phone. But you can start there, right?
Yes.
You know, and then that becomes the foundation for now what becomes a job description. And a job description is two things. It's what does good look like? The performance outcome, how does it define? What does it look like? Ideally, a measurable outcome. And number two, it's how do you get there, right? What's the process to getting to good? And that is a proper job description, right?
Yeah, I think a lot of people fail on two sides of that. So to me, that's not even the beginning. I think the beginning of the foundation is set in the company's culture. Establish the core values, the mission, purpose, all that kind of stuff. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs skip right over that because it's not fun, it's not sexy. I don't need that crap. That's for the big businesses. No, it's not for you. Trust me. So I'm a big firm believer in hiring for that cultural fit. You know, hire for the values and then train up for the skill. Because every time that I've done it in reverse, I've gone and said, "Oh, the hell with the values. That guy is a stud. He's great at X, Y, and Z. Let's bring them in." It's never worked. Not one single time in my entire career has that employee worked.
You're blinded by the flash and you forgot to look at the core value match, right? And it's possible they're both, but you get distracted by, oh my God, this is the best developer I've ever seen. But then, you know, the person turns out to have all sorts of behavioral dysfunctions. Right?
Oh, totally. So I think that's a key piece there. Make sure you got that stuff in place. Then it comes to, you know, the G3 method, get your hiring and all that stuff in place as well. But the other piece of it is if you don't have the SOPs in place, if you don't have a structure in place, a system for them to follow, what are you expecting for them when they come in that first day? So I think a lot of people get, all right, cool. I've got the core values in place. I've got the hiring process in place. We get some decent people in. What happens the first day that they're with you? What does that onboarding experience look like?
I love that. And so that's the next thing I always tell people. And so nobody wants to do any of these steps, by the way, right? So they don't want to take the time to do the core values, the mission. And I skipped over that part. You know, we talked to a lot of coaches, so we've got a lot of content there, but I think you're dead right. You got to start there. And I think where I see a lot of people fall down, right, is in this creating a good, powerful, performance-based job description, which means tells what does good look like, what's the outcome, the measurable outcome, and how you're going to get there. Those are the SOPs. And then you just nailed it again, is this, what does the onboarding? And the onboarding process, again, starting with day one, week 2, month 3, month 6, month 9, 12, right? It gets a little less granular as you get further out, obviously. But I start, right, week 1, 2, 3, 4, super granular for a reason, right? Why are you so granular in the beginning?
The way it was taught to me, and this is going to different events, you know, paying other coaches, people who were experts in this area. Because again, I wasn't strong in that. I didn't come out of the gate, you know, knowing this stuff. Like, what is onboarding? What does it even mean? And the best way that it was equated to me was, it is, like, you have a client experience, you have a customer journey, you have it. So if you sell a client, the minute they become a client, they get a welcome email, that the team gets notified that we just closed the deal, X, Y, and Z happens. We ship out some swag to this person, you know, we get blah, 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 blah set up. They get access to all their stuff that they're expecting from us. Cool. Well, the same thing should happen for your team members. So if you're going to bring somebody onto your team, right, I'm really big on communication, and more importantly, proactive communication. It's one of my core values in my company and my personal life. Okay, always will be, and that's not even something I'll be negotiable on. So proactively tell your team, hey, by the way, we just brought somebody on. Before that person's first day is even there. Right? So what's the process for you notifying your team? And again, we don't have to overcomplicate this. So in my company, we leverage Slack for all internal communication. Go in and introduce this person to the team. One shot, take you 5 minutes, not even done. What happens from there? What does the onboarding checklist look like? what's this journey for your new team member going to look like? Because it's our job, our responsibility to wow this person just as if they were a customer who came in and spent good money with us.
Yeah.
Right. Day one, they're showing up. If you're in an office environment, do they have a workstation set up?
Yeah.
Do you have an
It's
email?
my biggest pet peeve. They show up on first day and none of their tech, they spend the whole day like trying to get their logins and their computer's not even ready, or I mean, again, if they're not, then field, where's their uniform, where are their tools, what are, like, why are we wasting time with that? I'm paying them on day one. Yeah. Hopefully I'm paying them to do something more valuable than like find their wrench.
Yeah, big time. The other piece of it for me is we need to then indoctrinate the person into the culture of the company. So cool. Hopefully in the hiring process, you figured out a way to decipher if they're a good fit for the values and the way that you do things. Yeah. Cool. If they are, you brought them on. If they didn't, you said, no, thank you. Yeah. So you bring them on, but what are you doing to indoctrinate them into the culture and the way that you do things there in the company? Right. Yeah. And the first couple of times that I did it was, hey, this is a one-to-one deal. We're going to spend, a good solid 2 days to a week face-to-face in the office with the new hires. Yeah. We try to get 2 or 3 in at the same time to save time. Yeah. And hey, this is what we're about. This is the mission, purpose, core values. This is our goal for the year. This is our big, you want to use coaching terms, BHAG goal for the next 5 years. Yeah. Cool. This is what it looks like. This is who's on the team. These are your key players. This is our current org chart. So let me point out the players here for you. Oh, by the way, here's a contact list for everyone who's on the team as well. So you can reach out to them if you have any questions. And then you get a little bit more granular with, hey, this is what you're going to be doing inside of your role. Yeah. But when you start thinking about it and going back to knowing what your time is worth, if you're the leader of the company and you have to be the one responsible for this over and over and over again, like there comes a point in time when you're growing and scaling the company that you can't even do that any longer. Yeah. Yeah. Because it's not the highest and best use of your time.
So how do you indoctrinate?
Build a system for it.
Yeah. To indoctrinate them. Yeah. So what do you do?
So I've done it a couple different ways. This is definitely one of those things where you can train and delegate to someone else in the company after a certain point in time. It also depends on how many different layers of management you have in the company as well. But one of the things that I found really useful, if you've got a small group, and I'd say, let's call it under 20 people on a team, is start filming the founder of the company and be like, hey, I need you to explain in your words, your exact words, what this core value means, and list through the company's core values. Explain to us what the mission is that we're on and why we're important. Explain to us in another video who the ideal customer is and what we're trying to do for them. Yeah. Right. Spend a couple of bucks. Maybe you got a video crew on site. Yeah. Maybe it's something you do in your company. If not, go find someone on Fiverr if you have to and get these videos edited. Yeah. Right. And then
I don't even know if it needs to be that complicated. I mean, if you're a small business, just pull your iPhone out and just do it. I mean, like nobody's going to hate you because it is iPhone quality. I mean, right. It's the message that matters, not the production value. Right?
You are 100% correct. Yeah. 100% correct.
Yeah. You get bigger. Okay. Go hire an editor. Right.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, as far as hosting the videos, you could do it a number of ways.
Yeah.
Well, host them on an unlisted YouTube channel. Yeah. Yeah. You don't have to pay any money for it.
Yeah. Yeah. Super easy to distribute, right? You create a playlist and just boom, 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 right?
Yeah.
What about like having talking about core values in your daily huddles or your weekly team meetings and having other people talk about like champion one core value? Like, hey, this week, Tomas, talk about, one of ours is educate first, right? Sure. That's why we do these events, right? Talk about that. Where did that come up this week? Did you see anybody demonstrate, or do you guys,
So yeah, we definitely do that. It's a big thing. Leading the last company that I ran from a high level, we did it in person weekly. We had basically a team meeting on Monday mornings, 10 a.m. And we would basically get the 15 or 20 people in-house together, and we would sit around the table. And the first thing that we would cover in that meeting is we're going over the core values. Yeah. And sometimes leadership would just say, hey, these are the core values. This is what they mean to us. And other days we'd go in there and just throw somebody on the spot. Yeah. Like, hey, Joey, stand up and tell the team here what one of our core values are. Yeah. All right. Now, in your words, what does that mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Give me an example of when you saw somebody do it, right? Or something, or live it, right?
Exactly. Hey, who here has seen someone live out a core value last week through some of the business interactions we've had? Someone raised their hand. Okay. Who was it? What they do? And how was it a win?
Yeah. Okay. So obviously having a really strong, well thought out, onboarding process, big part of that is culture immersion, making sure that they really understand those values and things like that. The other part of it's like teaching them how to do their job, right? I think for me that the key, aside from the mechanics that we're talking about, like, yes, you need to do these things for successfully onboarding them. We teach a fact-driven hiring system. The last part of the hiring process is training and onboarding, right? And why? The same point you make, right? It's often overlooked. It's like, okay, we did all this work. We wrote a killer job description. We attracted some great people. We evaluated them. Like, we're confident that they're going to be good. And then we hire them and then nothing, right? Is a common mistake that happens, right? So, okay, you build out the training onboarding system. I also think when you do that step, you got to re-look at your job description.
Mm.
Because whatever you thought it was, if you start really inspecting what the onboarding process is, the training process, it should be aligned with that. And sometimes it doesn't. And the training and onboarding process can tell you what should be in the job description.
Mm.
Especially if you're like, well, I don't really know, but I'm fuzzy about that, right? Well, if you break it down that granularly, like, I got to train this person, they got to get up to speed and be at full production in 90 days. That is what your job description leads to, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. I'm going to go back to you here in a second, because I think you just said something that's super important, super powerful. And most small business owners are like, no way, I don't have time for that.
Yeah.
Okay. You just said, get them operational and up and running in 90 days.
Yeah.
Which I think is very reasonable.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think anything, there's always exceptions. There's lots there, but
sure.
Anything less than that is probably unrealistic.
Correct.
Anything longer than that is like, well, that's really starting to be a costly investment, right?
Correct. I think that most small business owners are moving at such a fast pace, and they've got so many things going on that they think 90 days is unrealistic.
Yeah,
I
too
find
long. They think it's too long.
Yeah. Like, hey, I just put that Indeed ad out there. Why don't we have someone sitting in the seat 3 days later?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, 6 days later, why aren't they getting work done for us yet? Like,
yeah.
Out here.
and that's a recipe for disaster, right? Because the expectation is not realistic. So when they hire the new CFO and the CFO isn't like creating fireworks in the first week, then all of a sudden, the CEO becomes like frustrated with that person. They start taking that frustration out on that person. And then the whole relationship begins deteriorating, like within a month of it even beginning, right?
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
So it helps you have the right perspective of like, is this person on the right trajectory to being an all-star, so that I can be patient with the development curve that is required. Like, just figuring out where the water cooler is at might take the guy a week, right? I mean, I love that example, but that's a really, really good point you make. And then the other one you make is, I threw that job ad up on Indeed. Why isn't the role filled next week? So this, I think, segues into our topic here, right? Mm-hmm. Like, how do we fill these jobs effectively, but also fast, right? So, we all want fast. It's totally reasonable.
Yeah.
But a common, and I see this a lot in white collar and like professional, like CPAs, lawyers, engineers, things like that. Frontline workers definitely can move a little bit faster, but I tell my CPA and my engineering clients, like, if you want to fill this role, it's a minimum of 6 weeks before they show up. That's assuming that you find the person tomorrow.
Yeah.
That they raise their hand and you start a conversation with them, because think about what happens, right? They apply. Mm-hmm. I hope it doesn't take this, but this is common. It takes 3, 4, 5 days for somebody to get back to that person. Hopefully they respond. Okay. Then you got to schedule. Well, these people are busy. Well, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 more days later, you have your first date with that person.
Yeah.
So now you're already 10 days in. That's starting from zero. That's assuming that on day 2, the right person applied for the job, right? Yeah. And then you go, okay, that's first date. Now you're going to have a second date. Well, it takes another week to schedule the second date. You're going to have a third date, and then it takes another week. So you're 5 weeks into this at this point. Okay, you make an offer, fall in love, ask her to move in with you. And well, she's got to, pack up her stuff and she's got to fill up the moving truck and she's got to move it all over to your house and move in. That's going to take 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah, you're at 8 weeks now, minimum.
Yeah, 8 weeks minimum. Now, you can accelerate this process if you are aware of the fact that this is the natural progression and you have some more intentionality behind it. And I think this is where now we start to talk about blue collar, frontline type workers, where you probably maybe don't have 3 dates, but you're probably having at least, we're definitely having at least one, but you're probably having 2 dates before this happens. But how do you get a good, first of all, how do you fill that funnel? Let's just start there.
Yeah.
If you're going to hire car audio techs, HVAC technicians, restaurant workers, nurses, how are you going to attract those people, fill your funnel with quality candidates, and how are you going to do that fast?
Yeah. So the methodology there has changed a bit. I'm big with software and processes in order to facilitate this as you are. I found that especially in the blue collar space, the frontline space, it's almost, I don't want to say this and mean it in a derogatory sense, because remember, I'm a blue collar guy through and through. It's where I started. Oftentimes these guys struggle with technology more so than most. Mm-hmm. Even the ones who install technology for a living. When it comes to email or uploading a resume, it's like, oh my God, it's a foreign language to them.
So rule number 1 of Fight Club, don't let your technology get in your way.
Yeah. So one of the things, and I have a client who actually taught me this. She runs a marketing agency, runs a ton of Facebook ads. She developed a system specifically for blue collar frontline workers, right? Where, hey, we're going to run some paid traffic. There's a little loophole here how we're going to get around Facebook's AI that reads that we're actually putting up a hiring ad here. Right? She's got a crafty little trick to it. Now, cool, we get these people in and we get them into a ManyChat workflow, automated workflow. So cool, they click the link, they're interested in the job. And now this thing is just kicking back and forth some basic contact information.
Yeah,
right? This
so asking some basic information just to keep them engaged, right? Like, what's your name? What's your phone number?
Name, email, phone number. You experienced in which one of these positions? How many years of experience you have? Like the basic questions are being answered.
Yeah.
Now this contact information, which is easy for this person to do from their cell phone, this little handy computer they have, comes over into the system, right? And by the way, this is, again, don't overcomplicate it. The system could be a damn Google sheet if it has to be.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying I want to work there.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be. So now this thing comes in. There better be somebody on your team who can reach back out to this person pretty rapidly. Either getting on that Facebook Messenger or picking up the phone and sending them a direct text message like a real human.
Yeah. So I love this. So I think, look, the traditional past work. I mean, Indeed, ZipRecruiter, even Craigslist, for blue collar workers still, is a valuable place to invest in money and marketing. And then Facebook. So here's the thing, right? Where are these people? Where do they hang out, right? Well, you mentioned Facebook, right? So if I'm gonna market my jobs, I'm probably not going to market my HVAC technician on LinkedIn. Sorry, not. We're on LinkedIn here, guys. Like, this is not where you're going after blue collar workers. It's not even where you're going after nurses, really, or even healthcare professionals or restaurant workers, right? So where do they hang out? They're on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook, right? And where do they use the computer? They're not like you and me, Thomas, right? You and I, we got our laptops. We're traveling. We're working. My wife's a perfect example. I think she opens a laptop like once every 2 weeks, right? She's on her phone, right? Like, most people, like they operate on their phone. So meet them where it's phone friendly, deliver content, be able to engage with them on a phone friendly platform, and like the socials and the forums that you ask them and how you do that. So asking them to upload a resume to a application, right, is a complete nightmare. In fact, if you ask me to upload my resume to an application on my phone, I wouldn't even know how to do it, frankly, right? Personally, right? Yeah. So meet them where they're at. I love the little engagement, like, little questions, that's sort of a gamification thing, right? It's like, I ask you another question. They're easy questions. I can answer you. Like, I know my phone number off the top of my head. I can answer that. Don't ask them a question where they're going to have to stop and like think or find a document or whatever, right? And then, but the most important thing that you said is you get back in touch with them lightning fast. So another guy who does a really good job in this space is Ryan Eglin. And I was talking to him, and he tells all his clients, and he pretty much only works with blue collar type companies, a little bit larger companies typically. He's like, you've got to get back to them within 15 minutes of them expressing interest. 15 minutes, folks.
Yeah.
How long do you wait to get back to a sales lead?
Same thing. You want to get back as fast as possible.
Yeah.
So this is where most people screw this up too, and this is something I had to learn the hard way. To me, hiring is no different than marketing or sales.
Yep.
Okay,
it is a sales and marketing activity through and through.
Yeah.
So when you hire an HR generalist, do you think that person has been trained as an expert in sales and marketing?
No.
Not at all. Yeah. So you either need to level them up or you need to rethink whose job that is.
Agreed.
That's my opinion.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. And going into the whole marketing thing, there's a couple of pieces from a top level, like a leader, a company founder, that I think that person is never going to get out of a couple of roles in the company. Okay, number one, you have to have your finger on the pulse of the marketing voice of the company.
Yeah,
it's your brand. It's your message.
You can't outsource it completely. Yep. You can outsource help or certain aspects.
Yep. Number two, you're going to be the one who's responsible for closing the big deals. Most likely, you're going to be the one who comes in and is the closer at the nth hour. Yeah. And number three, you're going to be the one who's responsible for attracting and/or closing the top talent who joins the company.
Yeah. I read a book by one of Elon Musk's people. I think it was like, I don't know, Liftoff or something like that. I can't remember now. And it was one of his first hires. And the story he tells in the early days of SpaceX, right? What Elon was really good at was hiring amazing, smart people and getting them to buy into his mission, vision, core values, and getting them to work for like a third of what they're worth.
Yeah.
Right. So that was his number one job in the early days.
Like sales to me.
Yeah. He had to sell them on the vision. We're going to Mars, guys. Let's do it. Right. Yeah. It wasn't that simple, but there's more to it. I totally agree with you on that. So, okay, a few takeaways: meet people where they're at. You've got to get back to them lightning fast. Look, I'll give you some grace. I say 24 hours. I think it's preferable if it's same day, right? But maybe they engage at 7 p.m. Fine. Get back to them first thing tomorrow morning. But other thing too is to think about, and my next guest coming up in a couple of weeks, Jonathan Duarte's got this like text messaging platform for frontline workers. I was just talking to him yesterday in our recap. And he wrote this little story that just really inspired me. I wrote a story about my own story about hiring based on this. But he was like, story is, service technician applies to the job. HR person comes in tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. About 9:30, they get around to reviewing the resumes and they say, oh, this person looks good. So they send them an email. Do blue collar frontline workers check their emails?
Never. Allergic to it. Yeah.
Because again, I look at my wife, she's a teacher, she's not like an entrepreneur, right? What she does with her emails is shopping. The only thing she's looking for in an email is the confirmation that her delivery is being, and it's full of spam. Like she spends like 10 minutes every night, like delete. Like, no. So, and again, if you're a blue collar worker or a frontline worker, you're working, right? You're driving a forklift, you're driving a truck, you're hammering a nail, you're helping a patient, you're serving a table. Are you looking at your phone?
No, you're just doing other stuff.
Yeah, but when you get a break, what do you do?
Yeah, you got to look at those text messages. You look at those Instagram DMs or the Facebook DMs.
Yeah, so text messaging, phone calls, but text messaging, it's really a text first approach, right? To engage with folks, right? I think those are a couple of key tips that I think, and we've done this. Like, so right now we're helping an HVAC company and a concrete company. HVAC company's got like 3 locations, and the other one, concrete company, 100-person company in Baton Rouge. They went from zero, like 10 applicants, 20 applicants, 0 hires for a whole quarter straight, to 300 applicants, and all of them were qualified. They all had CDL, driver's license, all on paper. Not all of them were good, but they were all like basically qualified. And by making just a few tweaks to where and how they marketed the jobs and how they responded to the candidates, they made 5 hires in 1 month. They went from 0 to 5 trucks back on the road. You know what that means to a company like that?
Yeah.
$500,000 a month in revenue.
Yeah.
Those trucks sitting in your parking lot are worth 10 grand a day.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's probably true across any frontline, right? Pick your number.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not 10, maybe it's 2, maybe it's 20, right? Filling these roles is a revenue generating problem or opportunity for the business, right?
Problem, opportunity, interchangeable. Love it.
Yeah, exactly, right? Yeah. It depends on how you see it. A lot of people see it as a problem. I see it as an opportunity, right? And that's why I think it's so important that we talk about these things. Let's start changing our mindset around hiring. It's not a problem, it's an opportunity. We need to come up with a solution so we can capture the opportunity in our businesses. The other part of it too, right? It goes back to this E-Myth stuff that you're talking about, right? Is, are you going to be the technician? Are you going to be the one out there in the truck servicing the customer because you've got nobody else to do it? Therefore, you're not working on your business, you're working in it. And who's the slave to the business now, right? You got to go find those people. What, any other quick tips on where you'd suggest finding or how you might go about filling your funnel? We'll talk about how do you figure out if they're the right person in a sec, but
Sure.
What, any other kind of hacks that you've seen out there?
I think people overlook their personal social media profile. Everyone here has a brand, a personal brand, and I think we all need to leverage it better than what we do for the most part. I think it's important. I think it's powerful that you go out there and you post consistently on social media. And I'm not talking your business page right now. I'm talking you personally.
Yeah.
Because if you don't tell the world what you do and who you help and how you help people, you're losing out in business.
Yeah.
And I'm also not saying to go onto social media and vomit and be like, oh, come buy my stuff, buy my stuff, buy my stuff. Because after the 3rd or 4th time, you turn people off and they just ignore you.
Yeah.
But if you can go in there and practice communication, right? So AKA tell a story, tell a quick story, tell how you help the client, tell how you look at these new people that we brought onto the team and how we're providing, money for these people and helping them build lifestyles and whatnot.
Yeah.
If you can go out there and show the world that you're doing some cool things for your clients and for your team members, you're going to start attracting the right people to come to you as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
so they'll start to DM you. They'll be like, hey, Tomas, I saw your post. I see your, car audio business. I happen to be a tech. I'm looking for a new job. They're going to come to you.
Let me give you a story. I like telling stories.
Yeah.
I've got a client of mine. He's out of Connecticut. He owns a very successful retail car audio shop.
Okay.
He's got, 6, 7, maybe 8 people on his team. It's a good size. They're very steady with their business. The workflow that comes in. The challenge that he faces, like most other people in that industry, is like if a tech decides to move on and we have to fire someone, finding another one is really difficult.
Yeah, because nobody has that skill set.
Yeah, because it's not just does this person need to fit the values of the company, but they can't come in here completely green because it's going to take me 2 years to train them.
Yeah.
Right. So we got to find a happy medium. So he comes in, works with us a lot. We have one of our quarterly in-person masterminds. We present this methodology for leveraging Facebook to go out there and run ads and target some people. And he kicked it up a notch. So he started targeting his local competition. So if anyone here has ever run any paid traffic on Facebook, you can literally drop a pin on a building or a location.
Yeah, like geofence them.
Yes. Yeah. He started dropping pins on all of his competitors' retail car audio shops with the intent, knowing that all the employees there, sometime sooner or later, when they went for their break for 5 or 10 minutes, they're going to open up their phone and say, oh, wow, look, so-and-so car stereo 4 miles from here is hiring.
Yeah. And if their boss was just mean to them, they might click that ad and raise their hand, right?
Yeah. So he's not really going behind that other business owner's back and saying, hey, I'm going to steal your employees, but he's also gently presenting the opportunity to them.
Yeah.
So he winds up getting 2 people from 2 different locations who come through the funnel from start to finish, and he hires them from this.
Yeah.
And one of the guys came in and said, hey, I'm really excited to work with you. He's like, I've been watching your content on social media. I've been watching the videos that you put up on TikTok for some of the installs and the quality of work that you guys are putting out of the shop. And he's like, I'm just like super grateful and excited to become a member of this awesome team. Yeah. So if you don't think people in your area are watching you and paying attention to what you put out there on the socials, you're out of your mind.
Yeah. They may not be liking, commenting, sharing, but they're seeing it. And if you're putting out good educational value add content, and they're seeing it, and if you're in that space, right? If I'm in the car auto space and I'm watching videos about this cool system you put in, and I'm a tech, like I like cool systems, right? I'm like geek out about these things, then I'm going to be like, wow, look at what they're doing over there. We're not talking about those things over here at our shop. We're just like putting in whatever. Right? Yeah, I love that. That's really genius. So yeah, I love that. That's a great hack. Geofence your competitors, geofence where your people, that your ideal candidates are going to be at. That could be conferences. That could be, I've heard about this with service techs. You geofence the plumbing supply house. You want to hire plumbers? Geofence that, run these ads to anybody who's coming in and out of that plumbing supply house, right, in your area. And that's how you're going to get them, right? That's fantastic. And I think it segues, and I'll leave everybody with this one other tip. One that it's highly related. It's exactly the same thing you're saying, is employee referrals. You've got to have a really robust, it's got to be, I think it's got to be part of your culture, right? It's something that you talk about every day, all day with your people. You incentivize, you celebrate. And I really think the big key to that is celebrate the activity, not the outcome, right? Thomas, if you refer somebody to me and maybe I decide they're not quite the right fit, like, that is besides the point. I should be giving you a double high five and a fist bump and buying you a latte or a pizza or whatever, or telling everybody else like, hey, Thomas sent somebody to us. It was amazing. I really appreciate it, man. And, that was great. Keep sending them. Wasn't quite the right fit. No big deal. But that was awesome, right? Celebrate the activity, not the outcome. It's not your job to decide who we should hire, but it is your job to be a brand evangelist and be telling all your people. And again, if you're specialists like car audio tech, you're running them, or maybe a plumber. I don't know much about car audio techs, but you're running into these your other plumbers at the plumbing supply house, and each other, like competing companies, but they're talking at the counter, right? So so I think there's very similar kind of strategy there. All right. So with a little bit of time that we have left, okay, you get a candidate, somebody raised their hand, they're qualified, whatever, they got the right experience, everything seems to be good. You want to begin figuring out whether they're actually a good fit for your organization. What are a couple of things that you suggest to help in making sure that you get the right person?
Yeah, a couple things. It depends on the role too. So if we're looking frontline workers, I like to build some form of an assessment that I can figure out this person's skill set. I'll give you a real live example. So when I had Top Class, which is my GPS installation company, would come through the hiring funnel, cool, apply the whole 9 yards, great. They would then get emailed a link to fill out an online form. It was a questionnaire. That online form was 10 questions. The first 8 questions were multiple choice, and you could literally Google the answers. Okay. So
hopefully they're smart enough to do that.
One of the core values in that company was resourcefulness. So if you don't need a skill set or an understanding of what these terms are, go plug it into Google and it will give you the answers. I promise.
Or ChatGPT these days.
Well, today we can use that even easier. And the last 2 questions were situational based questions, right? So, hey, you went to a customer's job site, you worked on their brand new Volvo tractor, this $400,000 or $500,000 vehicle, you installed this device and you left. And 5 minutes after you left, you're driving down the road already, going to your next appointment. And the customer calls you and says, hey, that new vehicle mine you just worked on, the brake light stopped working. What do you do? Okay, this is a situational based question, and I've got 2 of them on this test. And it's a text box. I'm looking for you to give me more than one sentence or one word answer. right?
And hopefully a decent enough answer where it's not like, tell them to pound sand or something, right?
Exactly. So we would use this information here to kind of decipher a little bit more. It also brings up conversation on the next call.
Yeah.
So I like to do a Zoom interview or Zoom screening is the first one, because I don't want to waste time with you coming into my office.
It used to be a phone call, but now do Zoom, right?
Yeah. For me, Zoom, I'm going to get a bit picky. I want to see that you show up on time or prior to the call.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I like to leverage with Zoom, and this being a Zoom user, if someone logs into the meeting before you, Zoom sends you an email.
Yeah.
So so-and-so just logged into the call.
Yeah.
I'm looking for that.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I want you there either on time or before I am.
And I'd say most candidates do. I mean, obviously the bad ones don't, but I see that all the time when interviewing candidates.
Yeah. So have that call.
Shows they care.
Show that you care. Use a templated format. Ask these people the same damn questions. Don't just go and route stuff off your brain, because you're not going to have consistent outcome at that point.
That was going to be one of my questions. How do you build your hiring muscle? And that's, I think, step one is you got to have a consistent format, right? Because otherwise, how do you master or how do you compare people if you're asking Joe this question, Jane that question, and you're all over the place? Like, you never really get a great apples to apples comparison if you're just inconsistent in what you ask people, right?
Yeah, correct. On top of that, in the front end of the process there, I'm also big on some form of a personality assessment.
Yeah.
Whether it's DISC, predictive index, whatever your company has in place and is using, leverage it, use it. That's all data that you're using to basically study the person, right? Yeah. Next step is I like to get them, if you have an office setting, right? Get them in person, have them sit down in front of you face to face and get a good read on that person. Right. Someone who's in the hiring position should be able to read other people.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm talking not just verbally, I'm talking read the body language.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I have a thing about gut hiring, right? Well, first of all, not proponents of making decisions based on gut hiring decisions, but you can use your gut to say no. So you just kind of nailed it. look at body language. The body language is bad. It's negative. It's standoffish, things like that. Absolutely. That's a reason to say no. But because you and I both like the Jets, I'm just assuming next year in New York, but
absolutely.
Is not a reason why you should hire me, right? Building rapport is fine, but I should not fall in love with you because we both happen to be the only two Jets fans in Texas, right? I love it. No, I think that's really smart. And that is very similar to the process. I mean, I teach a 5-step process and it's not as daunting as it seems, but you nailed all 5 of them, right? Obviously have them come do a Zoom, custom assessments. I mean, that's one of the things we built into Discover is custom assessments. You can build a custom assessment for any skill set these days. Yeah. It's really freaking cool. We just build them for you. It's 10, multiple choice, whatever you want, 100 questions. I did it for a blockchain developer. And I mean, it was like a 30 question test because being a blockchain developer is kind of complicated, but I mean, literally it doesn't matter how complicated the job is. You can now with AI create really remarkable custom assessments. And then, I mean, obviously I'm in the assessment space. I'm big on attitude and integrity. So especially for blue collar, we bought a company last year called Integrity First. So measures for honesty, drug use, hostility, and theft. On our core assessments for higher level roles, it's looking at a lot, not as many as it's looking at honesty, personal responsibility, whether the person's a good team player, they have a positive attitude, those kinds of things. In addition to the personality, this type fit stuff. And then core aptitude, how smart are they, how their communication skills, their people skills, sales skills, leadership skills. Again, what's applicable to the role, right? So I'm a big fan of assessments, obviously. And really think they're important, typically doing those after a first interview, after they're engaged, they're like, yeah, I want this and I want to take the next step. Because that is first thing, right? You got to get them on the phone, you got to engage in that conversation, you got to go on that first date. They're trying to decide whether they want to, keep going on dates with you because that's going to take effort for them. And you're trying to decide the same thing. And the last thing, when you said bring them in the office, I definitely a big fan of that. I like to do that as a multi-hour to frontline workers might be a couple hours, but where they get to meet people, where they get to shadow, they get to see the job. You can even give them a hands-on test, depending on the role, depending on the situation. You can actually just have them here, fix this motor, right? Or whatever it is, right? And so that's a real great test, and we call those working interviews. But
Yep.
then they get to meet other people, introduce them to their coworkers and to office manager, other people, because again, they're deciding whether they want to marry you just as much as you're deciding that. And if they meet the office manager and the office manager is not very nice to them, then they might not want to work there, right?
Yeah. I agree. Yeah, the working interviews was a really big piece of the puzzle in my service-based company.
Yeah.
We didn't have a facility that we worked out of, so we were on the road traveling to our customers' locations. So it became part of the hiring hoops. I like to call them the test.
Yeah.
Hey, Joey B, you've got you're going to be working with us next Wednesday. We have to be on site at 7 a.m. Here's the address. Here's who you're going to meet on site, whether it's me or somebody else on the team who's going to meet you there. This is what time we expect you there. This is what you need to have with you in order to be prepped for success.
Yeah.
Right. And again, this is all stuff that you can automate or at least put into a canned
template.
Yeah. And that just made a tremendous difference. So we got to the point where we started sending out our installation manager, like our field tech manager, out to do these working interviews with these guys. Yeah. And we would pay the technician for the day, regardless if we hired him or not.
Yep, absolutely. And that's really a must in this climate. Yeah.
But we want to see what you show up like. Did you show up on time or did you show up late? If you had trouble finding the address, which is a real thing, especially with some of the job sites that we went to that weren't even on the map, right? Did you reach out for help? Were you resourceful enough to find your way there? Mm-hmm. These are all giving us clues as to how you're going to operate as an individual. Mm-hmm. And then our team who's going to be on site with you, everyone's going to be putting eyeballs on you that entire day to see if you're really going to do the right thing. Do you have the skill set? What's your attitude look like, as you were talking about a few minutes ago?
Yeah, and he's got a lefty Lucy's turned around, Yeah, I love it. And then take him out to lunch, right? Be nice to him, right? Treat him like you would anybody else, right? So, that gives you a little social opportunity. You can talk about the Jets or whatever, So I love it, man. Well, I think those are all really good. We've had a long conversation. We got into a lot, and there's so much more to talk about. So I definitely want to encourage everybody, if you want to learn more, I think, hiring, creating systems and process around hiring is a deep and broad topic. Obviously, Tomas, you teach how to install these systems in and throughout your whole organization. So there's a lot to cover as you start to systemize all areas of your business. So where can people find you? And what's the best way for them to get in touch with you? Yeah,
best way is head over to connectwithtomas.com. It's going to be a little Linktree style page that has links out to all my social media, the business website, all that stuff's going to be there. There's a link on there if you want to book a call on my calendar and interact with me as a human. I'd be more than happy to hop on a call and spend some time with someone.
Awesome. All right. Well, we'll make sure that gets, there you go. Emilio, drop that in the chat there. I'm sure you'll drop it on the social as we get the recordings out. If you have a friend who missed this, feel free to share the recording, and all of Tomas's contact information will be there. And it was really, really great chatting with you today. And this was a fun conversation, and appreciate it. And I'll look forward to connecting in the future.
Yeah, likewise. This has been great, and I really appreciate the opportunity.
Awesome. Have a good one. Bye.